our partner at Barbell. They are actually running a pretty legit sale for what, Memorial Day, Blake? Starts May the 22nd. And on this sale for a limited time, you can get any athletic fit jeans, chinos, or the anything pants, which we just got a pair of those the other day.
Dude, those
the anything
are awesome.
pants. Yeah. You can get any of that for $99. You guys have heard us talk about on here before the jeans that Barbell makes. I was searching for a pair of jeans that I could wear to speaking engagements and stuff, but also get out and move in and work in, and that were actually comfortable enough to travel in and do whatever I needed to do in day-to-day life. That's actually how a big reason why our partnership or relationship with Barbell formed. And they sent me out some of their jeans, and I was like, holy crap, these are legit. And actually, when Barbell sent me out their pair of jeans, I actually ordered a couple other pairs of jeans from their biggest competitors, and I tried them all, and the Barbell jeans were above and beyond better than the other ones that I ordered. I wanted to do that intentionally, and they are legit. So $99, you can get some of those.
That started May 22nd. That's already happened. When does it end?
I don't know. Probably after Memorial Day. You better get on it, son. Oh, between. It's still running.
Yeah.
Yeah, so get on there if you want to take advantage of it. And also part of this sale, they're offering 40% off on their overstock items. Remember, they offer a year-long guarantee. They back up their clothing, no questions asked, for a year, 365 days. If anything happens to the clothing, they'll help you repair it or replace it so you can get back after it. Can't hardly beat that, son. A year long. You can't beat that. Yeah. So they've been awesome partners, and we're thankful for them, for who they are, for what they represent, for putting out an awesome product, for being a part of 307 Project. We got the documentary coming out soon about Cocodona. We're calling it 1 Mile Out. Again, that documentary, that whole thing is brought to you and was made possible by Barbell and Hoist.
Yep.
Hey, they didn't have to do that. You talk about a huge investment into bringing something that's going to be powerful, impactful, and meaningful to all of you guys just because they made that happen. And it was a big investment. Big investment. That's a powerful partner.
Yeah.
Yeah. So,
and they make good stuff. I love those dang pants,
well,
man.
yeah, the dang pants are awesome. If I can fly in a pair of jeans, because I got to wear comfortable stuff when I fly, man.
Yeah, we flew back in jeans.
Yeah, we flew to Arizona and back wearing our Barbell jeans and comfortable the whole time. So check them out at barbellapparel.com. I guarantee you won't be disappointed. Upon you, we're back live. Just hit record on the 307 podcast. Welcome back to this week's episode. What the crap is up, YouTube? We're glad you're here. We're glad you guys are joining in. If you're tuning in on the just the audio version, we're glad you're here too. We know some of y'all folks have to work for a living and you can't always tune into the lives. But I think most people that watch YouTube a lot, they're pretty much like on disability or homeless or...
Caramel Weed's on here.
There you go.
Caramel Weed, what the heck, man? I'm always wondering, like, when people tune into the live YouTube at 11:30, like, are they on their lunch break or...
Yeah, man. People get like an hour for lunch.
Well, yeah, I guess so.
You retired? This guy here, Jarrett Ferguson, he's retired.
Jared, I'm retired too, man. That retired life, son. I love it.
You think they're on disability?
Well, I think a lot of them are on disability or like, just maybe living in their mom's basement.
Accountants.
We got it.
Oh, yeah, there's probably a lot of accountants, insurance salesmen.
Rent collector said he's a landlord, so he ain't got to worry about it.
Yeah, rent collector, you ain't got to worry about it until somebody's daggone pipes burst or their water heater goes out.
Yeah.
Well, dang, man. I'm happy to be back on the podcast today. You know, if you haven't joined us here on the 307 podcast, if you don't know, I think a lot of you guys probably do listen to the 307 podcast, but since we generally don't ever even talk about what 307 Project is, I'm imagining there's probably thousands of people who listen to this that don't even know kind of what we do outside of sitting here and talking on the podcast. We actually do a lot more stuff than just host a podcast. So we're gonna get to talk a little bit about that stuff on today's episode, and this is kind of a rare opportunity for us to do so. The core of what we do here at 307 Project is we get to train, I believe, the best of the best human beings in the world. So we're a training company and content creators. Is that right, Chili?
I guess. Is
Okay.
that how you want to say it?
Well, I don't know. I'm asking you, man. I mean, that's a big reason why we call 307 Project a project, because I don't think anybody even really knows what it is. It just kind of morphs through the years, right?
It's just a thing.
It's just this thing, right? But the cool thing about 307 Project is because we get to train with people, we have this massive network that I refer to as the body of 307 Project. There are hundreds of people out there who we have actually spent real time with doing hard things. We've developed this massive network of relationships through the training missions that we conduct. And that's one of, I think, if not the most unique and to me special aspects of 307 Project in comparison to other content creators and brands and stuff that you see out there, right? We have these real friendships and relationships and these real memories and literally hundreds and hundreds of stories that have been created through the training aspect of what we do here at 307 Project. And we actually just this past weekend did a brand new mission. It was my brainchild. I was out on a backpacking trip with my wife a few months ago, and I had this epiphany that came to me. This idea for this training mission that I called the Rite of Passage, or the ROP course. A lot of you guys have probably heard of it if you listen to the podcast very much. And so this past weekend, that vision that I had for that course was brought to life by the 13 team members who completed that mission. And that in and of itself is very, very special to me. I don't know, I'm sure a lot of you guys can relate to this. When you have this idea, you formulate it in your mind, you put the work into actually, putting some bones and structure to it, and then you actually see it come to fruition, and you see it happen, and you see it produce the fruit that you wanted it to produce, or you thought that it would produce. That is a very, very cool feeling, okay? So that in and of itself was cool. But this Rite of Passage mission, for me, it's so right in my lane. everything about this Rite of Passage mission is just right down in the core of what I love doing personally in terms of challenge, environment, the simplicity of it, but the difficulty, finding difficulty in a very simplistic task, and the time it takes for it to unfold and produce the fruit that it needs to produce. Everything about it was just, man, it's all me, right? and then the other cool thing about it, because this mission was so difficult in terms of physical and mental challenge, I believe it's, I'll let Bean and Brooks give their perspective on it here in a minute, but it's one of the most difficult in terms of just sheer physical challenge, difficult missions that we run. And what it did afterwards, I felt a very strong connection to the men who brought this thing to life and who accomplished it. Right? And I always feel connected to the people that we train with, but the connection that you have with people deepens as the intensity of the difficulty, the pain, as those things increase, the connection that you're going to feel with the people who you are there with, walking through that with, that connection is going to deepen as the intensity of the pain and the difficulty increases. And I hear somebody talking somewhere. Where's that coming from? I don't know. I don't know where it's coming from. Anyways, so a lot of unique things about this happened. And this podcast, maybe I'm being a little selfish here. You can't go anywhere, Blake, because you're running this. Do you?
The podcast is playing back on somebody's phone or something.
What the crap, man? Oh,
It's you, isn't it?
pause.
Holy crap, man.
What an idiot.
Thank you, tech guy.
Dude, he was getting so mad, and it was him.
Thank you, tech guy. Thank you there.
Yeah, you're slipping, man.
Dude.
You tighten up.
So selfishly, I wanted to have two team members from this past ROP mission, Team 001, come on the podcast today and talk about their experience. I want to get some feedback from them because, yeah, I feel very connected to all of these dudes. And, our man Bean here, you guys are going to get to hear from Bean here in a little bit. Bean is this dude that came into our lives out of nowhere. He's just this old Mexican dude. And he just shows up out of nowhere in our lives. And,
Expanding.
And he has poured so much into me, just speaking wisdom and life into me, expounding on the scriptures and speaking really prophetic words into my life. He's trained with us now multiple times throughout the year. So he's done the Proving Grounds, the basic course, and now the Rite of Passage. So me and Bean have done a lot of work together. And he's given back to me more probably than I've given to him, just in words of encouragement and words of wisdom. And that's one reason we want Bean on here. We could sit down here and do a 3-hour podcast just with Bean alone and not even talk about the Rite of Passage course. And so you're going to get to hear from Bean, and then you're going to get to hear from Brooks Cobb. And so Brooks, totally different than Bean. This is the first time we've met Brooks. Brooks never trained with us before. We've never met him in person. He shows up to the ROP course, and what really stood out, so many things stood out to me about Brooks, but one just really tangible thing is Brooks. There was a moment in the mission late, where Brooks was, I would say, the only one who was still in the, tangibly in the fight.
Yep.
Like, everybody else was in a low point, and Brooks was still in the fight, encouraging, reaching out, coaching people, his teammates through. And we're talking about in the darkest hours of the night. And that really stood out to me about this man. And many other things too. Just an enjoyable human being to be around. And I can say that about everyone that was part of this team. Were all awesome human beings. But obviously we can't have 15 people on the podcast at once. So we're going to talk to these two guys and get some feedback from them and just let them share about their experience some. If you're wondering, if you haven't heard about the Rite of Passage course, this mission is very simple. It starts on a Saturday, and it's a 24-hour long mission. The objective is simply to move as a team continuously through difficult terrain here in Northwest Georgia, the wilderness, to move through that environment for 24 hours straight. That's the mission. And there's so many reasons for this. One, I think we need something. We need a rite of passage in our lives that we can go out, we can go through it, and it gives us a memory. It gives us an experience that we can then look back on for the rest of our lives when crap's getting hard and maybe we're not getting the right amount of sleep because we've got other crap going on in life. Somebody's sick, somebody's hurt, business is really busy, whatever it is, right? And we're thinking, man, I only got 4 hours of sleep last night. Well, you get this experience that you can look back on and say, well, yeah, this kind of sucks, but it didn't suck near as bad as that, and I made it through that. Okay? So that's one reason for the design and the name of this. And then I've always said there's three things that every human should do in their lifetime. One is jump out of an airplane. Two is ride a bull. And three is run a 100-mile race. And the reason I say the 100-mile race it has nothing to do with the 100 miles. It has to do with moving through that 24-hour period continuously. That's the hard part. It's not necessarily the distance that's the hard part. It's the moving through that entire day, an entire night, all the way to the next morning, and realizing that your body and your mind is capable of making that happen. It really shifts your perspective on what you're capable of. So there's a little background on that. Bean, what's happening, Bean?
Am I talking to good Chad or crazy Chad right now?
Well, you know what, Bean? You're going to be extremely happy to hear this. Sir, you were right. My feet were not ready for the rite of passage. So, Bean, are you happy to hear? I mean, aren't you happy to hear that my feet weren't ready?
That makes me very, very happy. Man, I mean, the way up is down, right? So before the crown, you got to go through humility. And if you acknowledge that your feet weren't ready, man, that's a good thing. So all I could think to myself when we began this rite of passage was, this man just completed 250-mile run, and he's going to come stand on his feet for 24 hours. I was concerned if you were going to do some more damage to those feet. But I'm sure that Blake, being the great little brother that he is, he probably got you home and massaged them and lathered them and, took care of them, right?
Oh, well, leave that up to Brooke. So it probably didn't happen.
I'm just continuing to let my entire foot. I'm starting off anew, Bean. I'm starting off now with brand new feet. I'm almost to the point where all of my old feet have peeled off, and now I get to. It's like if you would have taken a newborn baby out on the rite of passage and forced them to move for 24 hours on their their brand new feet.
You know, a newborn baby's feet are real nice and callous, so you should be ready for something.
So I just had to give Bean a little satisfaction that you are correct, Bean. My feet were not ready for that. Bean was really giving me a massive amount of crap throughout the course of this mission, trying to give me a taste of my own medicine. So Bean, I got a question for you.
Shoot.
We've trained a lot together, all right? We've spent time in the wilderness on the basic course. You guys had a really good, I think, impactful Proving Grounds mission, and you're showing up to this Rite of Passage course. You've trained with us in the past. We've done all this stuff together. What were your expectations for this course, and did they meet your expectations, or did it turn out to be something completely different than you expected it to be?
That's a great question, because you're right. I had already done the two previous events with you, the Proving Ground and the basic course, and both of those are difficult to go through in respectively, right? Because they are different, and you are learning a different set of skills with each one. And when you first mentioned the Rite of Passage event, when you first brought this up, and I heard about it, and I thought to myself at that time, if this is going to be a real Rite of Passage event, then it's going to be very, very difficult, and it may very well, or should be, more difficult than the other two events that I've done with the 307 project. And the reason I say that, I mean, for those who might be listening, if you're not familiar with Rite of Passage and what that all means, Rite of Passage is a ceremonies that they've been around for as long as the earth has existed, and they still exist in certain cultures. Rite of Passage are extremely important, especially for young men in certain societies, and they all may look different, but it is a significant mark in time of where you're taking a youth and, in essence, transferring them into adulthood or manhood if we're dealing with a male, which a lot of Rite of Passage events are all about that. So when you said that, I thought, this guy may have something up his sleeve, because it was going to be the first time you said that you ever did it. So I was prepared for something that was going to be more difficult, right? In the previous two events that I went to. And it was more difficult for me personally. I know there's a context for everything. And sometimes once you're removed, I'm months removed from the Proving Ground, obviously, but so context plays a role, but I'm just coming out of this and being able to compare it to the Proving Ground or the basic course, which are both difficult respectively. This was different. I had never moved for 24 hours on my feet. I've been up for 24 hours, but not on my feet moving. And it sounds easy, but it's not. It gets difficult, especially depending on the terrain that you're covering. So it was most definitely difficult to accomplish. And I would say it is the most difficult thing that I've ever done physically in my life. I've had some time to think about it. I think it is. There are other things that are more difficult that I've done in my life, but they're in a completely different context. I'm just talking about something that is requiring the physical stamina, the mental stamina, the spiritual stamina throughout the course of a period of time, 24 hours. It was the most difficult, for sure. And I thank God that I had Brooks with me at the very end, because he saved my life. I mean, he really did. He got me through. So it was great. And then one little thing that I'll add about 307, because I've had multiple opportunities to talk about you guys to others that I know. And my best definition for the 307 project at this point that I communicate to others is that, look, I tell them 307 is an organization, but it's a Christian human development company is what they are. And they focus on maturing the mind, the body, and the spirit. That's who they are. And I
Wow.
leave it at that. If you want to check it out, go to 307project.com, right? And you can figure it all out because there's just too much that they get involved with, right? And it's going to be difficult to explain. I had a young man with me this morning, and somebody that I'm training, who's actually spent most of his life as a missionary in the Congo. We grew up there. I mean, he's 18 years old right now, and he's like, his mother is third or fourth generation missionary in the Congo, and so he knows a little bit about my life. And he said, "So what happened this weekend?" I start telling him, and his mouth falls open a little bit, right? And he starts asking questions immediately. He's engaged in it, right? It's great, and it's great to see, right? He's obviously grown up in a harsher environment than in the U.S., so some of the concepts are not foreign to him, but nonetheless, he had questions. What did you do for this and for that? So yeah, it was all that.
That's wonderful. Thank you, Bean. And I'm going to have to write down that explanation you gave of 307 Project, as you put it so eloquently and I think accurately, a Christian, basically human development, developing the body, soul, and spirit organization. And I love that, man. It's great that you guys that are participating and contributing and listening from the outside can define what 307 Project actually is even more clearly and articulately than we can here on the inside. That means that we're doing our job properly. So I like that you can define it that way, Bean. That was very beautifully put. And I'm going to give you a minute. I'm going to give you some time here in just a minute, Bean, to kind of unpack your personal experience out there on Rite of Passage and give kind of the points of what you would add in terms of value that you got out of it, and when it got hard, and what was meaningful to you about it. And you can kind of unpack that here in a minute. But I want to go over to Brooks and ask him kind of the same question, because Brooks is on the opposite end of the spectrum. Brooks has never met us before, never trained with us before. He's walking into a completely foreign environment. He has no idea what to expect. And so I want to send it over to Brooks and get his perspective going into this thing. Is it, Brooks, what you expected? Did it achieve what you wanted to achieve, or was it something totally different than you expected it to be? Having walked into this thing without ever spending time with us before.
Well, I've spent a lot of time looking at what you guys do, seeing how you guys train, who you train that's not part of it. You don't let us know things. You don't let us know what the course details are. You don't let us know really what the expectations are going to be, other than we're moving for the 24 hours with this particular evolution. So I had to break it down any way I could to come up with some kind of training plan to get myself together for this, so I could perform at a level that I wanted to hold myself to and had held myself to in the past. We spoke a lot about losing rudders and sailing terminology and how I've just been kind of out there on the sea rudderless. I'm still buoyant and bobbing and moving, but the winds have kind of taken me where they want without that rudder. And this mission started the day you released that ROP mission statement and opened it to applicants. I was immediately, the next thing I did was pick up my phone and start writing in my notes and putting my application together. And that was when that course started for me. This was chess against Chad Wright, man. This was 3D chess against a masterful player. And I wanted to see, if I could come up with what would I do if I was planning this. And it broke down to finding a 24-hour event that took place that had a maximum output, and that was pretty much these backyard races. And I studied what the runners were doing to prepare. I studied how they were coming into the pit stops and how they were taking care of themselves. And I broke this down on every level that I could so that I could practice. I'm in the low country of South Carolina, which means we've got about 15 feet elevation gain total. So I felt I was at a distinct disadvantage, not having without having to travel quite a distance, not having that terrain to work with. So I had to supplement strength training and stair climbing, and I did what I could to get some form of elevation. It was not enough for what you guys threw at me that night and threw at the rest of the team. That's where I felt, I could have improved some, but as far as the rest of it, I felt pretty well prepared, if not over prepared in a number of the areas. And that was by design. I've spent a lot of time in the wilderness as a younger man, even in my teens, and have been to some pretty out there places and carried a lot of weight to get out there. So I've been through similar type of situations. It's just been a long time, and it was not the same body I was taking out there as when I was 18 years old. And I think that was the biggest shock to it all.
Yeah, Brooks, I could tell right off the bat. First of all, it was interesting seeing you show up, because you showed up. You got caught in Atlanta traffic. You showed up an hour late. You had missed pretty much the whole end brief, and you're showing up right at the bat, and you're getting tossed into this situation where you've missed most of the pertinent information that the rest of your team has received, and it's a little chaotic for you right off the bat, man. And so as the mission, my first kind of perspective of you showing up like that was, oh man, this guy's gonna be a little bit, he might get a little haywire, but after we got out in the backcountry and we were moving through that environment, I would hear you say little things. I'd hear you give little tips to people. I watched the way you handled your gear, the way you handled yourself, the way you moved, and I said, okay, this guy knows what he's doing out here. He's been out here. He's been out in the backcountry quite a bit. Like, I can tell he knows what he's doing. He's gonna be all right. I want to turn it over to Chili real quick. We got Chili on the podcast. I know I've been doing the talking the entire time. I'm sorry. I was really excited about this episode. Bean, Brooks. I mean, I cannot tell you how much I appreciate you guys coming on and doing this. And I don't care if nobody else listens to this episode, because I personally was excited about this episode to hear back from you guys. It really fills me up to get to touch base with you guys after this is over and you've had some time to process it, and let us know if what we're doing is on par with what we think we're doing. It's special to me. So I want to hand it over to you, Chili. Ask these guys any questions you got on your mind, man. Well, because Chili was out there with us too.
Well, first I wanted to ask you, because I was going to say it just a second ago, but did you notice how Brooks handled that chaotic situation that night? Like, it didn't faze him. I noticed that immediately.
The only thing I noticed that night, when we were getting ready to depart the camp area where they were in, I noticed the team was under the pavilion and they were talking, the other 12.
Yeah.
And I noticed Brooks was kind of over in the pine tree setting up his tent. And that made me worried about him more, because I thought, oh man, like, he hasn't quite gotten integrated yet. And I think he doesn't feel integrated because he did show up late and he got inserted into this environment that had already started to develop. So that was what I saw.
I wasn't worried about it. I remember distinctly being impressed with how he showed up. Showing up late sucks. You can't do nothing, the Atlanta traffic and all that crap. And then just how he seemed to not even not even bother him, just show up and ask me a few questions. Just was like, good to go. I was just like, that's pretty impressive. But anyway, that was my perspective on that. So good job, Brooks, for that, for handling that curveball well. But yeah, I don't know. I think the main question I always wonder after an event is, how did that match up with what you expected going in? And that's pretty much what you just asked. But yeah, now I mean, I would be curious to move into the mission and kind of, in whatever order they want to go, hear from both of them to maybe this is jumping ahead too far, but I would like to know the moment where it changed for you. And what I mean by that is, like, you had your expectations or whatever, but I'm not even talking about that. I'm just saying the mission got started, and obviously it was really easy for, I mean, at least a little while.
Depending on who you were.
I mean, well, yeah, whether it was 10 minutes or 10 hours, it was easy to a point. I mean, it had to have been, you know. So, like, what was the moment, not necessarily your lowest moment, but where was the moment that you thought to yourself, huh? And that makes a lot of sense to me, but it may not make sense to you. So if you need me to clarify what I mean by that, let me know. But I'd like to hear from either one of you about what was the moment you go, huh? Well,
yeah. And so I'm going to turn it over to, we'll let Bean kick this off. And Bean, you can kind of unpack this however you want. You can go straight to that moment, or you can kind of give the lead up to it.
Sure.
So unpack it however you want, Bean, and then Brooks will have you follow up. And also, Bean, as you're going through this, you guys can go back and forth with each other if you want to. But I want to turn the conversation over to you guys for a little bit, just to unpack that leading up to that. You know, eventually answering that question that Chili just asked.
Man, there's so much to unpack. I mean, and just to give the listeners an idea, okay, of how much there is to unpack. No joke. We left there on Sunday. Brooks and I was traveling home by automobile, and Brooks and I got on a phone call Monday morning, like, it might have been like, what, Brooks, 7:30 a.m. Eastern time? We talked for 3.5 hours, man.
wow.
Okay.
Praise the Lord.
3.5 hours, yeah. 3.5 hours. And I know that Brooks also, after that, later that day, he spoke with Michael Majors for at least another 3 hours. That's how much this event touches our lives, right? Just so that when you talk about unpacking something, it's like, shoot, man, very difficult to unpack this because there's so much, but let's give it a shot, right? When I come into something like this with 3 of 7 now, it's the third time, it's all about maturity. It's about my personal maturity. My expectations is that I am here to mature mentally, physically, spiritually. And my spiritual life is of utmost importance to me. But I see all of these things interplaying: the physical body, the mind, the spirit, right? So I want to be mature. I want to grow up. I'm not done, and I won't be done until I'm dead, right? And even then I won't die, I'll live. I'll live in Christ. So it's all about that for me. I went into this being as mentally prepared as possible under a lot of different, business circumstances that I was going through, and wanted to get, that maturity. I knew that it was going to get difficult. There's no doubt about it. Don't know at what point it's going to get difficult for me, and I don't know at what point it's going to get difficult for another individual that's participating in the event. Just know it's going to happen. And to go straight to Chili's point, when did it get difficult? For me personally, it got difficult in the second half of the game, and I'll tell you why in a second here. So I learned from previous events or a previous event with the 3 of 7 team that, hey, Bean, you need to take trekking poles with you. You need to use those. Those are a nice gift, right? So I got myself some trekking poles, and I had a plan of when I was going to pull those out. Because in the beginning of the game, it's all, fun and games, right? We're having a good time. Fresh, stay time, ain't no big deal. We're good. Matter of fact, Chad and I had some good conversations in the first quarter of the game.
Yeah.
It's good. No problem, man. No problem. But I had already predetermined that no matter how I felt, I'm pulling out those trekking poles on the second half of the game, right? And I had seen one of our teammates, Eric Roberts. He was using his trekking poles from the very beginning, and Robert's in great shape. Eric Roberts is in great shape, right? And he had those out from the beginning. I was just kind of like, smart man. Maybe I should pull mine out, right? And stuff is what I thought. But then as the event went on, we had one of our teammates that was getting into some trouble, and he was starting to hurt physically. And that was probably it was early on, actually. But it wasn't until maybe what I'll just call the second quarter of this event that I got my trekking poles out, and I walked up to the front where he was at, and I said, hey, man, you're going to use these trekking poles, right, for the rest of this event. You need these. These are going to help you. They're going to help the team. And, got his backpack off of him and all of that and redistributed it right to the team, took his water bottle and walked with him for a little bit. But my point is once I gave up those trekking poles, there was no way I was going to ask for them back, right? And so I knew right there that I was going to pay a higher cost on my feet. And my weakest link is my feet. I already knew that going in. It wasn't my legs, it was going to be my feet that were going to give me trouble. And so that was the first thing that jacked with my head.
Yeah.
It got in my head, and I was turning it off and and talking back to it. No, right? But it was definitely in the second half, and I would say late into the third quarter of the game, that's when it was getting the most difficult for me. There was a point in time where we crossed a body of water, and you all know how I feel about water crossings, right? With my feet now. I made that clear. So that's when it got worse, right? Mentally challenging, all of it. For me personally, that's when it got more difficult. And it was also that as well, that I have to give Brooks all the credit in the world and all the praise in the world, because he really helped me stay mentally engaged regarding my feet.
Yeah.
Because I told him, man, and he helped me. He was speaking life into me. And I needed that spoken word coming into me. And I was able to just continue, right? Just a little thing, but made a huge difference for me.
Yeah. How well do you think you were combating that in your own head before Brooks started to really, really help you? Because we were, Chad and I both were back there really paying attention to that. And I'm wondering, how well you would say you were combating that on your own before he stepped in.
Yeah, because Bean, you spent a lot of time in prayer out loud. Me and Chili were back there watching you, and you were just crying out to the Lord. I mean, obviously not in a flagrant way, but you spent a lot of time in prayer out loud in that second quarter. I got to see that quite a bit, and I loved watching that, man. So back to Chili's question. How well do you think you were combating that before Brooks stepped in?
Yeah. That's a great question. And I would say that before Brooks started helping me, if I was just using 100% kind of as a scale, as far as combating it, maybe I was at 50%. Mm-hmm. That's probably where I was. And I had been asked by some other teammates, what are some hacks, that I use, this was before we started, when I go out and I do something like this, and I tell them, and I told my swim buddy this, I believe, who was Tate. I said, hey, you might hear me, because I was behind him. I said, so don't freak out, but you may hear me doing some deep breathing, routines that I do. That's part of what I do in order to basically nourish my physical body and my soul and my mind and everything, clear my head. So you may hear that, doesn't mean anything's wrong. You may hear me praying out loud, right? You may hear me quoting scripture. You may all that, but those are real tools that I use even in my daily life, not just with 3 to 7. I do that, and they help me. They always have, the grace of God has always been there for me. And so, yeah, that's what you were hearing. And because I was in a difficult spot, and I'm praying and I'm crying out to the Lord for more power, more strength, right? Because my end game is I'm going to finish. I am going to finish this thing, but it's not going to be under my own power, but I'm going to give it all I got, right? So I would say about 50% Chili before Brooks jumped in, to help me.
Well, it's funny. To me, it just shows there's clearly a huge power in a teammate stepping in to help you. And you could also look at it like, Brooks was the answer to the prayers that you were, that you were sending, right? I mean, that was the answer. I mean, that, I don't know. It's just very interesting how all that unfolded to me. That was probably the most stark example of the team coming together, even though that was primarily between you two, just of the whole time. That just...
Well, and that was the instance that we really got to see too, Chili, because, by that point, we're letting the team move at their own pace, and we're in the back.
Yeah.
And all this was happening in the back. So I'm sure there were other examples of this that happened within the team that we just missed. But
I'm just saying for me.
Yeah, we got to see that one play out in real time. And it was so amazing to watch Brooks step in and provide that selfless service to his fellow teammate without any request. Bean didn't ask him to do that. He just stepped in and he saw a need. He stepped in to fill that void that he saw was there, and he mustered the strength to do that. That was just a beautiful example, man. That's why we train, to see moments like that happen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I gotta say something about that real quick, because obviously the listeners that are listening to this, they don't have the full context. So number one, Brooks was an answer to my prayers, Chili.
Yeah.
I even believe I told you, Brooks, that the next day when we were talking on the phone or at some point, man, you are the answer to my prayer. And not only that, Brooks was so transparent with me, opening up his life and answering questions. We got to talk, I got to learn about Brooks, and there was things that we had in common and stuff. And I knew this is God's gift to me. This guy right here, right now, Brooks. Now, before Brooks came to me in the second half of that game, late in the game, we were broken up into 2 squads. And our squad had 6 members in it. And my swim buddy was Tate. He was right in front of me, and I was at the back of the line, all right, our file. Brooks was in front of Tate. But when Brooks knew that I was going to a bad place, he dropped all the way back, and he came back to the back of the line, and he stayed there behind me. And that's when he began serving me. He was really loving his neighbor. And for context, again, for the listeners, and I'm not going to steal Brooks' thunder. He could talk about it, but Brooks, I saw Brooks' feet, I think after the second quarter, because he had to do some patchwork on his feet. And by the way, guys, those of you listening, guys and girls, we weren't allowed to sit down at all. And after you've been on your feet for so long, you want to sit, but also just squatting down or kneeling down is painful. Your legs are tightening up or whatever. But I knew Brooks' feet were in worse shape than my feet. I saw them. I saw them. And I knew the man was suffering. but he went to another place. He was able to lock it out. And from that position he was in mentally, he was able to feed me. Overflow.
Yeah.
From the reservoir that he had extra to give. And that was the beautiful, beautiful thing to experience and to receive from him. It was an overflowing cup coming out of Brooks at that moment, right? So yeah, it was great.
Yeah, go ahead, Chili.
Well, I was just gonna transition to Brooks, and because that flowed so well, I'd like you to kind of give your perspective on that, your side of that. But also, I think it coincides well with. I'd like to even ask you a different question than what I asked Bean, and because I feel like that moment with him lasted a long time, and it kind of coincided with a moment where the whole team was almost not able to. I feel like for a moment, you were the only one who really had the ability to keep moving forward and give to your fellow teammates. And there was some, other people were strong. I mean, I can distinctly remember, like Bean said earlier, Eric was strong the whole time, and Ryan and everybody was still, in it and moving, but you really had more to give. So just speak on that, your perspective of that time and what was going through your head.
And there's an art to that. There's an art that I think that comes a lot with experience too. I think there are other people who also had more to give. They just didn't necessarily know how to tap that.
Right.
So before we turn that over to Brooks, I want to make mention of something that Bean just said, the answer to his prayers that when he was spending time in prayer. So many times we seek God in prayer, and we come to him with our needs and our weaknesses and the things that we're struggling with in life. And our expectation so many times when we come to God is for him to provide some supernatural, all of a sudden boost of energy or this all of a sudden this supernatural purpose or the supernatural direction. This all of a sudden this thing just shows up and fills us up right from out of nowhere, when in all reality, the God, the creator of the universe, is a supernatural being. He created this universe, and actually everything that we see around us is supernatural. The man that's standing beside you, his existence, his physical body, everything that makes up everything that we see around us is supernatural. We take it for granted because we see it, right? We can feel it, we can touch it, and so we call it the natural. And here's the thing: God will answer your prayer. He will meet your needs. He will keep his promises to you, but stop always looking for some supernatural moment, for something that's outside of your explanation to pop in and change your situation. You need to look for the answer to your prayer. God, a lot of times, will work and answer your prayers through what we call the natural, through somebody beside you coming alongside you and providing what you were asking for. And that in and of itself, we take that for granted because we think, well, we just expect something to come out of nowhere. And it's like, no, the thing that you needed was provided, but you're not appreciating it. You're not acknowledging it. You're not giving credit to the fact that what you needed was provided unto you because it came from the natural. The supernatural God that we serve will work through the natural 9 times out of 10 to meet your needs. That's how he operates. Bean, you can dispute me on that. You're a much more mature and wise man in terms of your relationship with God. But, that's just such a cool example of the need that that being met through the natural, through something tangible, but all the while being a supernatural substance. If that makes any sense to anybody, I don't know.
Absolutely. I completely agree. It reminds me of the story of the man that's out there in the middle of the ocean drowning, right? And he's praying for God to save him, to rescue him, basically, supernaturally, right? And somebody comes by and says, "Hey, man, let me get you out of that water," and no, it's okay. Because he's waiting for God to supernaturally save him.
Yeah.
And second guy comes, same thing happens. It happens a third time. Guy ends up drowning, stands before God, and he says, "God, what happened? I prayed that you'd save me because, man, I sent you 3 people."
Yeah.
I mean, does it matter what their race is or what their religion is or what any of it is? I mean, really, it doesn't matter. And I love what you said, Chad. The human being standing next to me is a representation of supernatural power made by a supernatural God, right? Gifted with things that can help me. And Brooks helped me. I mean that sincerely. I mean, Brooks knows it. I mean it sincerely from the bottom of my heart. He helped me. And I'll never forget that help. And I'll never forget that example so that I might use it with someone else, right? Because it's always about paying it forward. It's always about giving it away. It's like, I'm not to keep this to myself. I'm to give it away. And so I'm very grateful to Brooks for the way he gave himself away to me.
That's awesome, man. Thank you so much, Bean. And yeah, I'm going to turn it over to you now for a little while, Brooks. Unpack your experience in whatever way you want to, and then leading up to Chili's question, giving some context around that moment we've been discussing for the last 15 or so minutes. So
I think you nailed it, Chad. When I came in late and I was over there setting up my tent, I was not integrated into a team that had already started integrating together. I felt that 100%. I get halfway through my tent. I see what's going on under the pavilion. And I realized I was not paying enough attention to what was going on around me. I was too focused on going through my motions to get just to run out my plan. And at that moment, I stopped myself and went over and sat down, got my notebook out and started taking notes about what was being said. Started asking questions so I could get some of the answers that I missed, because I missed everything. And I think there was a few moments where people were just hesitant. They were focused on what they were doing and they didn't really want to share that information out for whatever reason. It wasn't intentional. It wasn't ill-willed or anything. I just think, honestly, if I was the 13th, if I wasn't the last guy to show up and someone else showed up late, I'd look at him like, who is this clown? And what else is he going to do wrong? Because I was looking at, we got 25 hours with you guys, 24 on the trail and 1 in the meeting. And I've already blown 1/25th of that experience. So I was pretty angry at myself, man. I was just felt like I missed a lot. And I did. I felt like I missed all the guys' stories, all the guys' reasons why they're there, their intent. And that was important and played out to be important throughout the night and the mission. So let's move past that, because at some point we all kind of came on the same page. I was ribbing Bean in that 3-hour conversation we had when he was driving home the next day. I said, you were the master of the ceremonies at that point, and you were leading everybody in thoughts and how things were going to go. And he mentioned that I want everybody ready by 5, no tents up, no nothing up. And I felt it being directed at me, like I didn't have my crap wrapped tight enough that I could accomplish this. So at that point, I was like, all right, I'm going to show this guy what's up. I'm ready for this. My tent's going to be down. I'm going to be the first guy waiting in line. Everything's set to go. And so that was really the moment of intent for me to integrate into that group and to almost prove myself worthy to be there. When I felt the next morning when you guys showed up, finally, we were ready to go. And when we were in formation, a double column formation, waiting to load onto the van, that was the first time I felt like all of us were on the same page together as 13 guys ready to take this plunge into the wilderness. Something you said tickled me. Look, it felt like you were getting ready to get back on a helicopter with a team. And man, that charged me up and made me feel like the team had taken Bean's guidance, used those initial steps to get at least in the right direction, looking like somewhat of professionals. And that's the standard I would like to hold myself to for the rest of the night. So let's keep cruising to where I thought you guys got me. And it kind of came in a couple spots. The first time that I heard I couldn't sit down, that crushed me, man. I was like, nobody told me that, because I missed that in the meeting. And this was that morning. We're moving, and man, I've got foot care planned out. I've got all my bandages and my Neosporin and I'm ready to do this, man. I studied it. And when you took that ability to sit down and comfortably take care of some of those things, I was rocked, because I've put enough miles on my feet training that I know where my blisters show up. I knew exactly what toes to tape and where to tape them. And I pre-taped before we went, thinking of what was gonna happen, but you can't, with the terrain that was going up and down, you can't count them all. So at some point early in the game, it had started raining, and I knew I needed to do something about my big toe. And I took a kneel on the gravel and just said, whatever, took my shoe off, took my sock off, and dealt with it real quick, because I had trained it, and put my sock back on, adjusted my shoe a little bit, laced it a little bit differently. And, you gave us 10 minutes each rest stop to deal with whatever we had to deal with. And that's not a lot of time when you've got 3 liters of water to fill, hydration packets to deal with. You want to snack when you're there. You want to load your snacks up. So I kind of knew this was going to be a factor, and prepared 4-hour meal packets and drinks for myself so that I could self-manage and didn't have to think about what I wanted to eat, wasting time on silly thoughts and efforts. That was all taken care of. So it was just a matter of grabbing this and going, and that allowed me time to take care of my feet. It allowed me time to deal with other people if that needed to be. And that's kind of what happened. The next real you got me moment was right before dinner. And we marched down to that river, and Blake was sitting on the other side with the van. And I saw that we're going to have to, as a team, ford through this maybe foot deep water. I knew for myself, not necessarily entirely for myself, but I knew as a team we were taking a huge blow right then and there. Standing around in wet feet for the rest of the night was going to be debilitating. And you knew that, and you designed that into this course. I know you did. So that was really the moment that it got hard. Because it got hard equally for everybody. Everybody was immediately dealing with wet feet, and the morale tanked. Blake, you could tell that because how much chicken was left over at the end. A lot. And we didn't eat nearly what we should have ate because we were feeling bad for ourselves, man. Every single one of us. And I saw them, everybody moping around, wasting time, not really taking care of business. And I'm thinking to myself, man, we've got some problems going on here. We've been trading our point guy, Aaron, God bless him, man. He suffered from early on. Bean says from second quarter, but I'm thinking like maybe the tail end of the first quarter is when Aaron started struggling, and that dude is tough as nails. And we had been trading his backpack around the line for the better part of 4 hours, and it was becoming fatiguing. Everybody was confused and didn't know when to pass it, how much weight they should take, when they should take it. And it was just becoming this cluster And I recognized it, and that's when I called the squad leaders over, because they weren't really doing anything about it. And I had a little meeting with them and said, look, let's get this backpack unloaded, give him just his water and snacks, give him his backpack so we don't got to trade it around a bunch. That'll save the whole team. And you made some good suggestions. Make sure his jackets and his gear is accessible to him. So we divvied that up amongst his squad members that were up front with him, in the hopes that they would recognize they need to move those pieces of gear forward when they needed to be moved forward. And everybody had their backpack on after the half-hour thing, and we were ready to go. The gear was unloaded out of Aaron's pack, and I felt like we were making some progress with that. We pushed forward all with wet feet, and I knew it was gonna be tough, man. I had a lot of debris in my shoes. In hindsight, I probably should have taken better care of my feet, but again, with the no sitting rule, it's a risk. If you take your shoe off to clear it out and you set your foot down, you might just bring more into it. And my feet were trashed at that point. I realized that. The water felt good on them. It cooled them off. All the blisters were kind of where they were. They were forming into my shoes. My socks were settled. My shoes were settled. The lacing was settled. And I was like, I'm not going to mess with them, because if I do, it's just going to cause more problems. We're more likely going to get wet again. And let's just push on. So I just turned the feet off. That was just, it had to be a non-issue for me, because it was such an issue up front. Then it became the team. It was, everybody's talking about me giving everybody strength and energy and power to move, but it was every single one of them who was feeding me. And it didn't have to be a positive feed. It could be a struggle. It could be watching someone slug forward at a pace, but they're still moving. And that was feeding me, because I had plenty of energy to give. And I know these guys didn't. And I wish I could somehow push that to them, but I couldn't. So I just had to do it verbally and through encouragement. And at some point it was apparent that 13 men who don't know each other, haven't developed a deep level of trust yet, aren't necessarily going to be telling the other 13 guys truth. And there was a lot of deception going on based off of pride, ego, and just a fear of letting the team down. And a lot of guys were starting to hide their pain and suffering and their needs. And Bean was one of them, but there was a lot of guys who were doing it. And any chance I got to ask someone who I suspected was having issues, what's up, what's going on, I got a lot of, I'm good. Majors was one of them. I kept checking in with him because he took so much responsibility as squad leader one. It was, I saw these guys putting too much, more than they had to give, not making smart decisions based on their feeling that they had to get the rest of the team through, and they weren't really taking care of themselves at the same time. So I was in a pretty middle of the pack position, and if you've traveled for any duration, you know that the middle of the pack is the easiest place to be. You don't have responsibility of leading. You don't have responsibility of keeping up the rear. You just follow the guy in front of you, and that's it. You can shut your brain off. And I conserved a lot by being in that position. And I kept checking in with Bean. He mentioned his breathing, and me being a yoga practitioner from years past, recognized the importance of breath, and deep breath at that. And I really liked what Bean was doing with the breathing, so I locked onto that. So Bean, you gave me that strength, and I returned that to you over and over and over throughout the night, because you forgot to do it for yourself. And if I had another wish I could go back and do, I think I would have shared that breathing with the whole team and made the whole team take those deep breaths at the same time, because it really brings you back into yourself. You can take that oxygen in, and you can think about taking it all the way to the area that's affected. And that was just a basic breathing meditation technique that I learned in high school health class, and was reminded of it through Beans, what he's doing out there with his breathing. So I'm taking stuff off every single one of these guys, taking what they're kind of just throwing out there, not knowing that they're giving. And I'm just kind of like a Velcro sponge at this point, taking everything that's out there. And we keep moving. And I keep asking Bean, keep breathing, Bean, keep doing this deep breath. And I know the less he's doing it, the more he's suffering. And at some point I recognize it's been a long time since he's done this by will. And I've asked him a number of times to come up to my position, and he's refused. And he just felt he had to be hard, and kept pushing that back position. I tried to switch him out a couple times, and he just refused straight out. And at one time I said, all right, Bean, let me explain this to you. You're going to be in the middle here. You're going to be in between people. You're not going to have the pressure of being in the back. And I'm coming back. You don't have a choice. My swim buddy was good. He was trodden on, so he was cool with it. And we still kept checking on him, but I knew Bean needed some encouragement, because truth be told, Bean spent himself not on walking, not on physical. He spent himself mentally combating Chad the whole trip. Yeah, he was our warrior against Chad, bad Chad. For those guys, obviously none of you guys who are listening, except a few who were on the trip, don't know that Chad throughout the course was tempting us. And Bean calls that bad Chad. And he was tempting us with 10-minute rests where we could sit down if we could guess what time it was. And these were lies. I had no expectation that Chad would ever let us rest or sit down for 10 minutes, even if we got the time right. I think he would just make fun of us for being stupid enough to play that game. And Bean was the warrior who fought that verbally, mentally, and physically, basically the whole trip. And that's, I think, all of Bean's extra energy that he had went to fighting off Chad for the betterment of the team. I mean, the team would have been wrecked if Chad had got into the inside of our barracks and started, stealing this or stealing that or just misplacing stuff. He could have wrecked us real bad as a team. And our first line of defense was Bean. So, there's you guys can keep all the credit you want on me, but this was a 13-man team, and every single man played their role equally, period. Yep. And some tried more than others, and some had to try more than others, and some couldn't try anymore because they were physically wrecked from a lot of us carry old injuries, surgeries, not little stuff. This is big stuff. And we started sharing in that and drawing strength from that. But I'm convinced that Bean really wrecked himself fighting off Chad. So I knew I needed to give more to Bean than I probably recognized before. And it also meant I had to start fighting off Chad myself. But truth be told, fellas, he wrecked his feet out on the Cocodona 250, and I knew he was suffering behind me pretty well. I heard he got the Coco legs going. I heard that comment, and I knew that Chad was suffering bad. So it became a goal not to keep Bean going, but to keep Chad going.
Old Brooks, he don't miss much, does he?
Hey, when you hit that Coco pace, it's got rough, son.
You remember when he sat down, Brooks?
Oh, man.
No, he got to sit down out there?
Yeah.
Hey, let's not get sidetracked, but
No. We're not getting
shut that
sidetracked there, man. Let's tell the audience what happened out there.
leaning up against an embankment is not sitting down.
Yeah, Brooks remembers.
You had a backstop, man, to sit up back against, man. You were changing shoes and changing your socks and like, what's going on with Redbeard here, man?
I didn't tell you, gentlemen, you couldn't lean against a tree or lean against an embankment. I just said you couldn't sit down.
He didn't say you couldn't put a rock under your butt and lean against a tree. He just said don't sit down.
Oh man, no, that's great.
Playing games out there, and we all recognized it, but few of us wanted to play those games with him. And like I said, he was suffering behind me, and I was hearing his whispers to Chili, and I knew something about the team that could pick us all up, and that's laughter. Laughter is a huge, huge piece of a. When you're negative, if you can laugh, you're going to be positive because you're smiling, and you're getting your oxygen's going, and you're thinking about something else. And I knew that everybody on those 13 men that were out there, all would recognize one laugh above all else. And that's Chad's laugh. So if I could get Chad to laugh about something, he would laugh so loud that the whole team would hear him and know that something funny was going on back there. And just through the sheer volume and hillbilly nature of his laugh, that they would all take and feed from that. So it became a goal to see how I could crack Chad up. And I don't know if I cracked him up or he cracked himself up thinking about it, but we had a few moments that night that there was some bellows going on out there, some goofy stories and a little bit of singing, a little bit of everything, man. These guys needed a little taste of storytelling, a little taste of jokes. And as Chad opened this podcast up saying this course was made for him, this course was made for me, man. This is my element. This is exactly what I just strive to do every day of my life, is to have these hard challenges put in front of me with strong men and stronger leaders. If you want to train to be good, you train with people who are better than you. And that's why I showed up to these guys, because they had so much to offer me, and we had so much to offer each other. It was a really bonding experience for all the men, not just the 13 teammates, but the 2 instructors were brought into that team as much a team members as anything, because ultimately Chad didn't want to make any decisions that night. He wanted the team to come up with the solutions. And the only things he was responsible for was when we were neglecting our own duty to our teammates. And in hindsight, I see that clearly now, when and why we should have done things differently. And that's good. That's growth. That's how you learn. You fail. And someone tells you failed, and they tell you how to do it right, or they show you how to do it right, or they point out when you started doing it right. And that's kind of what happened out there. We started doing it right. And I realized that, man, Chad's quiet back there. He doesn't want to motivate anybody. He's not going to coach anybody. He's not going to do anything. So nobody else in the team was doing it. And it was time, man. It was dark. It was beautiful. It was peaceful. The rain had subsided. The insects and birds were chirping, and it was magic, man. It was just glorious, glorious. The feet didn't matter. The legs were going. Everybody was just moving. And it was a beautiful thing. And I soaked in every little bit of it and looked around and felt and absorbed nature. And everything out there that night was mine for the taking. And I took it.
Man, that's such a powerful, I loved listening to that, Brooks, just listening to you recount that experience. And you know, that what you just described, those last moments that you just described, not there at the very end, but kind of leading up, that darkest part of the night when everybody was quiet, including me. I was quiet on purpose because, just like we talked about at the very beginning of this mission, my vision for this thing that we all did together, my vision for it, what came to fruition in that moment. My vision for this is to give everyone who participates the opportunity to go through something hard, not because anyone's watching, not because there's hype, not because there's motivation, not because it's going to make a good social media post, not because there's a camera, not because anybody else in the world cares or sees what the crap you are doing, but just for the sake of doing it. That is the spirit of the Rite of Passage. Just for the sake of doing it, for yourself. This is for you. Not for anyone else to see, not for anyone else to pat you on the back, not for anyone else not for some instructor or somebody to come and acknowledge you, not for any of that. The spirit of the Rite of Passage is for the sake of doing it. And there's so much in life that is this way. Real grassroots endurance events capture this spirit. A lot of them do. They capture this spirit that I'm speaking of here. And I think it is the most translatable experience to real life. Many of the hard things that we go through in real life, the true difficulty, the true suffering that we endure that's outside of our control and we can't say stop. Many of those moments in real life, the true spirit of those moments, what propels you forward is just sheer tenacity, sheer tyranny of your own will. It is not the camera. It is not the accolades. It is not the accomplishment. It is not the mileage. It is not the social media. It's nothing. It's just sheer the decision to continue to keep moving and to be able to capture that in this training exercise and experience that and feel that is exactly the environment that I wanted and I visualized creating for every one of you guys. And I'm so happy to hear that you recognized that moment, Brooks, and what that felt like and how you guys proceeded through it. It's beautiful to me. That, like I said, just all this coming to be real after I've had all of this in my mind, even down to this detail of the spirit of the event, and seeing it actually happen is so rewarding to me. And to hear it come from you, Brooks, just solidifies it in my mind that, okay, this is accomplishing what it is supposed to accomplish. Exactly. So I want to take it on. Into kind of the final moments of your Rite of Passage, both Bean and Brooks, and the final moments and through to the end, and just any last takeaways that you guys want to share with the listeners that will serve the listeners, because look, man, there are tens of thousands of people who listen to this. A very, very small percentage will ever get the opportunity to do this, because if you don't know something about us here at 307 Project, is we don't like the idea of scaling. We like the idea of intimate, real experiences that aren't mass produced. So a very small percentage of the listeners will ever get to do this. A even way, way, way smaller percentage will have the courage to even ever apply to do this. So there are a lot of people listening who will never get to experience what you guys did on the Rite of Passage. So just take us on through the final stages of our mission together and through to the end, and any last takeaways that you want to share with the listeners that they might be able to take and even without going through this, take and grasp it and have something extra to serve them in their day-to-day life. And I want to kick it off. Let you share with us, Bean.
One of the questions that you asked us when we were coming to the end of our course, and you were preparing us for our AAR when this was all done, the question was, what one single thing will you take away from this? I want you to start thinking about this, now. And I had already had something brewing in my mind. There was a scripture that was coming to my mind. When I get a scripture, I just really pay attention because I'm like, it's the Spirit of God and it's working on me, right? And it was, most definitely, because as I saw the finish line approaching, like Brooke said, it was very exciting. Seeing the sun rise that morning after being out there all night was a very special sunrise.
Yeah.
To be sure, right? You literally march this thing, hike this thing for 24 hours through the night. I mean, it's something, right? I mean, it was so powerful at the end for me, and I was in the back, right? That when we finished and Chad gave the data for what we had accomplished, because for the listeners, we were not allowed to take watches. We were not allowed to take cell phones. We had no way of knowing, how far we had traveled or how much time had passed. It was all built into it, right? But when Chad gave the data, I just started crying. I don't know if anybody saw me, but I did. I started crying. There was a lot of things right at that moment when he was communicating that data that were going through my mind. I was thinking about certain people, and thinking a lot of different things right at that moment, thinking of the Word of God. So it was a real powerful climax for me personally. And the one thing that I took away and is repeating in my mind is the idea of being prepared at all times. Be prepared. And it was really coming out of the scripture out of Matthew 24, verses 36 through 44. Jesus talks about a coming judgment that's coming on the world. It's the judgment of God. But those verses are really being emphasized to those that are unprepared. That there is a coming judgment coming to those that are unprepared. And in those verses, he talks about watching a couple of times. He talks about being ready another time. And the whole spirit of the passage is, you got advance notice. Be ready. Be ready. Be prepared as much as humanly possible for whatever life might come your way. Because as Chad mentioned just a moment ago, there is a type of suffering that happens in a life that you didn't sign up for. Well, I think we all go through this. There's some suffering that hits you and you didn't sign up for it. It's just the course of everyday living. And though you may not be prepared for it at that time, if you've already trained through various hardships that you intentionally enlisted for, like we did, because some will think that this is just crazy, it's nonsense, it's foolishness. Why spend your money on something like that? There are a lot of reasons to do so, but being prepared, or preparing yourself as much as possible by going through an exercise of suffering and difficulty will pay off in various degrees when the time comes for you to suffer when you didn't plan on it. When you didn't plan on it, you'll be able to go back to that well that you dug early on and suffered and made sacrifices and went through the hardship, and it prepared you a little bit better, and that's why I'm so grateful, right, to the 307 Project. They are preparing human people. They're developing them, right, for life, because life is not fair. It's not fair. It's not going to be. So I'm very thankful. And that is my biggest takeaway. Be prepared. I told myself, Bean, you should have had 2 pairs of trekking poles. Right? And Brooks, you're correct. It's very difficult to fight off the red beard.
He's a man wants to be.
Yeah, but it's good. It's good, and it's a very good exercise. It's very good discipline. It's all very good, and I would encourage anybody that is intrigued by it, that's on the fence and thinks, hey, I think I want to do that, but I'm on the fence. Do it. Do it. I'm not going to kid you. It's hard. All right, it's hard, and maybe for you, it'll be the hardest thing you do in your life, like for me. But if you do so, you've been forewarned on this podcast. Prepare yourself as much as possible, right? Maybe go out, do some running, some hiking, and look into footwear and things like that. Do all those things. Those are important. Don't go in ignorant, because you'll just make it harder for yourself, right? If I would have known Brooks before this and known his backstory, because he has experiences that I don't have, I would have been all over his brain. Brooks knows that I'm going on some adventures in the month of August, and I'm already picking Brooks' brain because he ain't going nowhere. God brought him into my life, so I'm gonna go get from that well, man, whenever I need some help on something. And he's so open and so willing to give it away. And that's the spice of life right there. Suffering with another man, and that man remains there, and he's available to you to receive in the future. Money can't buy that.
Amen.
Money can't buy that.
Amen, brother. There's a lot I can say about what you just said, Bean, but I'm going to kick it over to Brooks.
All right. I think rolling towards the end, everybody was moving. I knew we were going to finish as a team. That was never a doubt in my mind, seeing everybody's commitment to it through the night. You know, the last, when light breaks, everybody's spirit is absolutely 100% lifted. And it doesn't matter if they're sleepwalking like Aaron, which was a great section of that video. It cracked me up hard. But what did I feel when you told us to find that single moment, Chad? That brought a tear to my eye right there, because I knew it was almost over. And this has been a long journey for me, and it can be kind of summed up in that if you feel you're out of shape and you feel you can't do it, where there is a will, there's a way. I was a turd, to be put in Chad's terms. And I heard that over and over every time I listened to you guys. You were talking to me. I was dying in the chair. I stand at work all day. I don't walk around. I don't exercise physically. I figure standing was enough, but it wasn't. And when I chose to do this, I had to make some changes to be able to even, in my mind, complete it. I told you guys in my application, I have a L2 through L4 fusion in my spine from a injury I received as a young man, and had dealt with that the rest of my life on and off. And at that point in my life, when I signed up for that class, I was off. 225, way overweight, physically unfit. My lung capacity was next to nothing. I went out for that first mile run like I had as a younger man, where I could just go out and run a mile and then go out and run another mile. And I crashed, man. I totally crashed. Ankles hurt, legs hurt, lungs hurt. I felt completely at loss with connection with my body. And that scared me. And then the next day you come on a podcast and say, if you sign up for one of my classes, you better be ready. You better be wrapped tight. And that was the moment when I said, man, you got to get yourself together, Brooks. You can't show up as a turd to a class where the expectations from professionals are so high. You have to hold yourself to a higher standard. And at that moment, I said, all right, I can't run. I'm going to walk. So I started walking every day for a month. Lost a bunch of weight to the point where I could start running, reintegrated the running schedule, swam every day, started picking up physical, power, some lifting type of help to work on the legs for the strength, since I didn't have the train to work with. And like Bean said, preparation. I'm all about the 7 P's. And a lot of guys just know the 6 P's. The 6 P's, I'll give them to you quick. Prior preparation prevents piss poor performance. That's the 6 P's. I've learned the 7 P's. And the 7th is the most important. It's the first. Proper prior preparation prevents piss poor performance. The proper is the key there. If you're not training for that mission, you're just training for nothing. I had to tune into this. I had to tune into my own body's needs and to even show up. So 2.5 months later, I'm on my week before the ROP, right? This is Sunday night, probably. My hip goes out, my back locks up, and I don't know what to do, man. I can't stand up. I can't get off the floor. I'm laying on ice all week. I'm laying on heat packs. I'm running the massage gun all over my back. Thursday night, I'm thinking to myself, man, I'm going to write these guys a note and just say, dude, I can't get up off the floor. I can't make the class. I can't let alone get in the car to drive up there. I was ready to quit before I even showed up. And Friday morning rolls around. It loosened up a little bit, but man, it was still tight. I'm out there loading my truck up, this big ice thing with my ice pack in it. And I've got all my massage stuff there with me. And I was so scared. I was terrified. I had been in the pain cave for a week already, and I'm not even on the class yet. So it was more stress, strain, difficulty for me to even get myself there than it was to complete the course, because I had gone through it all in my head already. I had beat myself down. I had doubted myself. I had quit in my mind and not quit. The choice not to quit was there, and I did not. I got in that car and I drove and I said, whatever happens, happens. If I'm the guy who slows the team down, so be it. And I was fortunate. Everything lined up. The adrenaline took over enough to let the muscles loose, and it happened. But at that last moment, I knew that it was all ending, and that experience was over, and the team was over. We had tightened up by the end. When we rolled in at the last van stop, everybody was tight as tight could be. And I was absolutely filled with pride and sorrow that it was over, because it took all night to get there. And I just wanted to keep going because we had finally got it.
Yeah, that's so hard, man. Yeah, I agree.
So that's it, man.
Yeah, I feel that every time we finish up a mission, Brooks. I can really relate to how you feel. I felt it at Cocodona when we just did the race a few weeks ago with our team there. I felt it with the team that we developed out on the ROP course. I felt it many times on the teams that we develop out on the basic course at the proving grounds. That's the hardest part for me is, man, when you experience that team coming together and functioning as a single organism and you are a part of it, when you come to the moment where that is over, man, that's freaking hard. Like, it's harder than the pain you're feeling. You don't want it to end, not because you don't want the pain to stop, but you don't want this thing that has happened, this organism that has formed. You don't want it to break apart, because it just feels it's so life-giving to be a part of it. That's the hardest part when these things are done. It was the hardest part when I finished Cocodona. It was the hardest part when, we come to the AAR at the end of the ROP course, and I'm feeling the same way you guys are feeling. I'm like, I don't want to say bye, but like, we got to cut this off. We got to. And a lot of times at the end of these things, I almost feel like me as an instructor, I'm a little abrupt or abrasive, just like, okay, it's over. Bye. That's the only way I know how to deal with it. It's like, we got to cut it off, guys. I know I feel the same thing you're feeling right now, but it's got to end. And that's tough. But thank thank God you guys are still communicating with one another. You're taking the relationships and the things that you guys have went through, and you're still talking to one another. You're calling one another. You now have this resource that you can carry with you for as long as you're willing to foster it and nurture it. So in a way, it's not over, but that singular moment, breaking it up and everybody going their own way, man, it feels uncomfortable. I'm glad you brought that up. I just don't know how many humans have experienced that before. I think fewer people have experienced that feeling than I probably recognize, because I get to experience it over and over and over and over again. It's a normal part of my life, being able to work with guys like you guys and everybody who was on Team 1 of the ROP course. But I think so many people probably go a lifetime without ever experiencing what that feels like to move fluidly as a single organism with these powerful humans surrounding you and becoming a literal unstoppable force. Because we could have kept going. Like, you guys were at the point where I could have kept pushing you until someone literally physically collapsed. You were at that point. And that's the point that we're seeking. And it's an amazing feeling. That in and of itself is worth it all to me. So thank you for sharing that, Brooks. I want to go around real quick and just hit Chili and Blake one more time. If you guys, Blake, you've done a lot of talking on this podcast, so I want to hit you guys real quick. If you guys got anything else that you want to ask Brooks or Bean, or any comments or anything about whatever.
No, I just want to thank them again for sharing, being willing to come on here and recap their experience. I mean, like we said earlier, this, to me, I was almost caught off guard by how special I thought Team 1 was.
Me too. Yeah.
I mean, all 13. I mean, it took all 13 for it to be that special. So, yeah. I mean, like you said, I wish they could all come on here and speak, but you can't have 15 people on a podcast. But
yeah.
No, that was a great weekend. And I'll just wrap it up by saying that I'm thrilled to hear that Brooks didn't want it to end, because to me, that's a sign of you were where you needed to be that weekend. I mean, you were in your wheelhouse. That's what I told Chad when he finished Cocodona. And I mean, let's get it straight. Chad wanted that to be to be over on many levels, but he also, a part of him that's. It's like, man, this is what I want to do, and now it has to be, now it's over. But like that's when you're doing what you're supposed to be doing, and what you really, is when you get that feeling. So yeah, it sucks to have that feeling, but it's a sign that you're in alignment to a degree. I think with what you're supposed to be doing. So then you just you recover from that one and do it again. Yeah,
your training is never complete. You're exactly right. You're exactly right.
So that's what I want to leave with them. All 13 of Team 1 is, it doesn't stop here. So,
yeah, I didn't get to spend near the time you guys did with the team running support, but the things that stuck out to me were just how invested the whole team was in the mission, and actually gleaning takeaways from it that translate into real life. Just because what you guys have said the whole time is that's why we train. Being put it very well, when we suffer untimely or unexpectedly, then that's why we're suffering in these controlled environments. And so that everybody in the AAR would say, this is, I'm coming out of this a different person, a better person with these takeaways. And to know that happened on the course, then I'm satisfied. So that was something that I was looking for everybody to have gotten, and everybody shared that to some degree. So that stood out to me.
I'll actually say one more thing, just for me. We've talked all about Team 1. I want to say one thing for Team 2 and any future team is Probably. I'd say everyone listening to this, or most, not everyone, but I've heard Chad say that the hardest part is showing up. It's actually not true. The hardest part is showing up prepared.
Yeah.
Like what Bean was talking about.
Properly.
Properly. It's actually pretty easy to show up. I mean, that's pretty easy, actually. But it's really hard to show up properly prepared.
Yeah.
So keep that in mind. Anybody who's going to come train with us, or anybody who's going to go do anything, that's the way you should look at it. So
Yeah. No, I agree. The one thing that was really impactful to me was looking at Brooks' before and after photo of Brooks. You can see this man changed. You can see, like, my wife took the photo before of Brooks and after, and I get back from this mission and she's like, "Did you see those two photos? Like, something happened to him." Like, it's like you can see it in the photograph. And he summed it up so well in his AAR points of this something just melted away from him, and he got to touch back base with who he is as just a powerful, amazing human being. And not that he wasn't before the ROP course. Obviously he was. He's got a wealth of knowledge and experience. But if you want to see something, I wish Brooks would post at some point. I don't know where he posts that, but the before and the after shot of him, because it's amazing. Just the visible transformation in his face that can be seen. That was super powerful for me to see that. This is why we do what we do, man, is for people like these men. This is why we do what we do. It just fills me up so completely. I felt amazing the last couple of days because of what you guys did. And I can't thank you enough. And Bean, I cannot thank you enough. And listeners, I got something for you after Bean and Brooks log off. I got something for you, so stay tuned. But Bean, I can't thank you enough for being my brother in Christ on such a deep level, for what you've poured into me personally through your words and your wisdom and your testimony. Your testimony is, one day I want to have you on the podcast in person just to talk about what you have been through and what you have experienced and what you do on a day-to-day basis. Because the first time I ever heard you speak at the Proving Grounds in an AAR and you got touched base with your story, it was just unbelievably impactful. And to be honest with you, Bean, your story makes me be a better man and husband and leader to my wife. Your story changes my day-to-day life. And when I spend time with you, I go back home and I am a better husband, leader, servant to my wife than I was before. Every time I spend time with you, I go back home a better man. I want you to know that you're doing that for me. And I can never thank you enough. And Brooks, I can never thank you enough for coming into my life and also being my brother in Christ. And Brooks, I don't know where you are with your faith right now, but I know you kind of touched on it a little bit there at the end. And you're a powerful man, brother.
Yep. And
Christ has a calling on your life to be exactly who he created you to be, because it's extremely special. And I just love you, man. And spending time with you is also life-giving. spending time around you, listening to you, your humor, your stories, your just who you are. The essence of who you are is life-giving. And that's not something I say about everyone. Trust me.
No.
Very, very, it's very, very few people that you can say that about. So I'm going to let you guys log off, and I got a few more things for the listeners to wrap up the show. I love both of you guys.
We love you, man. Congratulations, Chad.
Thank you, bro.
Love you too, man. Love you guys. Thank you for the kind words,
Yep.
Chad.
Love y'all.
All right, guys. That was one of my favorite conversations we've ever had on the podcast, probably. Personally, I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope you got some takeaways from it. If you're interested in doing a ROP course, you can send in an application if you want to at 3of7ROP@gmail. I'll attach the email in the show notes of this episode, telling us who you are, why you want to train. Because this was so impactful to me as an instructor, and I saw what it actually did for the team and for the men that showed up there. And by the way, this opened to women too. Because it's so impactful, I did put 2 more of these courses on the calendar because the rest of the missions are sold out. But I did put 2 more on the calendar. If you want to join on one of these, the two new ones will be July 21 through 23 and October 27 through 29. And so initially we only put 3 of these on the calendar. They sold out immediately. I told Blake, I said, we got to run one of these and just see if it does what it's supposed to do, what I think it will do, if it accomplishes the work that we wanted it or expected it to accomplish. And then we'll talk about doing a few more, but I want to see what happens. And what happened was powerful to me and to everyone involved. And so that's why we decided to put 2 more of these on the calendar and squeeze them in there. So that's where we're at on that. So that's a wrap, boys. Thank you guys for tuning in. I hope to see you one day at a ROP course. Hope to get to know you guys better. All you guys that listen. Thank you. Enough said.